to the third video for Drugstore Week. I hope that you enjoyed yesterday's video, which was the first impressions, and then Monday's video, which was a drugstore haul. Today, I'm going to be chatting all things dupes. So if you are on a budget, or maybe you're in school and you don't have a lot of money to spend on makeup, but you want to try it out, I'm going to be showing you a few things that I think are dupes for higher end products, and they are not exactly the same, but they come close to it. Some of them are very, very similar, like crazy similar, and others are kind of close, but you can get away with it. But the price tag is the biggest difference between these products. So if you're on a budget and you want to see some of these dupe products, then keep on watching. So what I'm going to do is list the higher end product price on this side and the drugstore product price on the side so that you guys can compare. So this first one is a big surprise to me because the high-end foundation is one that I've loved for so long. It is up there with my top foundation choices that I will choose every single day. The finish is exactly what I want on a day-to-day basis, and of course I'm talking about the MAC Face and Body Foundation. I love this because it gives my skin a luminous, healthy glow. Also, you can build it up to a medium coverage, but I prefer it kind of in the light area. I love this product so much. So I was surprised when I found that this was very, very similar. And this is the LA Girl Pro Coverage HD Long Wear Illuminating Foundation. It has a crazy long name, but the foundation itself is beautiful. And I think that it's similar to the MAC Face and Body, but only, here's the catch, only if you blend it in with a beauty blender, a damp beauty blender, or a Real Techniques Miracle Complexion sponge, or any kind of makeup sponge that you have that is damp. I think that that's the only way that it gives the kind of finish that MAC Face and Body does. The best thing about MAC Face and Body is that it looks natural. It looks like your skin just a little bit better, and it's covering up redness, it covers up a little bit of blemishes, but mostly I like the radiant finish that I get with that foundation, and I get the same kind of finish with this. I'm wearing this LA Girl foundation today, and my skin looks polished and luminous and healthy. I think that this actually gives more coverage even with using a damp beauty sponge. So if you're on a budget but looking for something similar to MAC Face and Body, check out this LA Girl Pro Coverage Long Wear Illuminating Foundation, and don't try and say the name too often, it's way too long. So the next product I'm going to talk about is another MAC cult classic, and I don't think that anything is actually going to compare to this. The dupe that I have is kind of similar, so if you're on a budget you can get this one, but if you have money, definitely splurge on the MAC Mineralize SkinFinish in Soft and Gentle. There's nothing that compares to this. I'm just going to say that. There's nothing that's going to come close to this. It just is beautiful. It's the most amazing highlighter. But I have found something that is kind of similar. This is the Essence Light Up Your Face Luminizer palette. This comes with 3 shades, and the only way that I could make these two products even remotely similar, even though I'm just saying this one is better, if you're going to save and you want a nice highlighter that's going to last you forever, get this one. But if you're on a proper budget, then this is going to work. If I mix this shade and this shade together, they are kind of similar to MAC Soft and Gentle. So I'm going to insert swatches for you guys so that you guys can see what I just dug my finger into my MAC Soft and Gentle. They're definitely not exactly the same. Like, they have kind of the same undertone color-wise when you mix those two shades. I think MAC Soft and Gentle is always going to be that amazing kind of lit from within glow that you can get. You can build it up, it can be natural. Okay, so for this next drugstore dupe, this is something that I mentioned in the video when I did a first impressions on this. I'll link that up below. I said that I thought that some of these shades were similar to some MAC eyeshadows that I have, and a Bobbi brown eyeshadow, and they are pretty similar. So this is the Catrice Cosmetics The Precious Coppers collection, and this is an eyeshadow palette filled with all shimmer shades. So I have dupes for these 5 shadows over here, and they're all from different palettes. Some of them are from MAC, some of them are Bobbi brown, but I'm going to show you swatches that you guys can see them next to one another. Some of them are not exactly the same. It's a little bit of a far-fetch, but considering the price of this palette, and then if you combine the prices of each of these higher end products, it's a lot cheaper, and you can get this as just a shimmer palette to use with a kind of matte palette that you have in your collection as well. This far left shade over here, it's the lightest shade in the palette. I think that this shade is very, very similar to Stila Kitten. In the second shade next to that one, and I think that this is almost exactly the same as MAC All That Glitters. The next shadow is a little bit of a far-fetch, and it is this very coppery red toned shimmer shade, and it's the third one from the left. I think that this is a closer dupe to MAC Copper, but right now all I have is MAC Bronze. They're not that similar, they're not that close in color, but I mean, for the price of this, you can kind of get away with that. The next shadow in the palette is also not exactly the same, but it's definitely closer in color, and this one is very similar to MAC Woodwinked. Woodwinked is definitely more goldy, like a true gold shade. And the Catrice palette is a lot more coppery and kind of warm and like a yellow gold. And then the last shadow that I'm going to talk about in this palette is this very cool toned bronzy shimmer shade. Oh, it's so pretty. I love it. And it is almost exactly the same as the Bobbi Brown Burnt Sugar. I will admit that that was a little bit of a far-fetch with some of those shades, but a lot of them are quite similar, like Kitten and then the Bobbi Brown shade as well. So what I'm going to do is tally up the price of all of those higher end eyeshadows over here and then the price of this Catrice palette. And in my opinion, I think that these are so worth it. Yes, they're not exactly the same. I think that for the price, this is an absolute steal. And then keeping on with the eyeshadows, I have a high-end palette here that I love and I've spoken about a lot on my channel. This is the Tarte Tartelette Pro palette, and it has so many beautiful kind of warm tone shades. It also got quite a few cool tone shades in this corner over here, and it is a thing of beauty. I absolutely love this palette. But then a palette that I bought recently, this is the NYX Ultimate Warm Neutrals palette. And I think that a lot of the shades in these are very similar. So you can see in these swatches that a lot of these shades are very similar. They're not exactly the same. The NYX palette doesn't have that kind of pinky, reddy shade that the Tarte palette does. But I think that this NYX palette is a good dupe. It's got some beautiful shades. This NYX palette is totally worth the price, and also the fact that it's very similar to this Tarte one. Next up is a contour kit that has gotten a lot of love on my channel. And I've hit pan on this a long time ago because I love it that much. This is the Smashbox contour kit, and this is the light one. I honestly love this palette. I think it is so beautiful. I like how compact it is. It can pretty much go anywhere with me, and I like the shade of this contour shade a little bit more than I do with the palette that I'm going to talk about now. So this is, I think, around 450, around there. I'll list the right price over here so that you guys can see it. And then this palette in the 300 and something category. So the price difference is not that crazy, but with this palette you get quite a few more shades, and I think that the contour shades are very, very similar. The Smashbox palette doesn't have that banana shade, but the shade on the right hand side of the NYX palette is very similar to the Smashbox highlight shade. I think that probably the NYX palette in general is a little bit more warm than what the Smashbox palette is. This does have a lot of option for deeper skin tones, and then lighter skin tones can use this shade over here, which is very similar to the Smashbox contour shade. The bronzer shade is very similar, but as I said, they don't have the banana shade in the Smashbox palette. So if you're on a budget, this is a wonderful palette to pick up. The next dupe is a highlighter that I'm completely obsessed with, and it's another Smashbox product. This is the Smashbox Blendable Cheek and Lip Color in Hollywood and Highlight. I absolutely love this highlighter stick. I think it's the most beautiful, everyday, natural looking highlight. And then what I have on the affordable side is this NYX Bright Ideas Illuminating Stick in the shade Chardonnay Shimmers. These are very different, I'm gonna say that. Like, the shades are pretty similar, but I think the formulation is what gets me. This Smashbox one is creamy no matter what. I love the way this applies on my skin. It looks like my skin is kind of wet, like just naturally glowy. I don't know if I'm explaining this properly, but also just the feeling of this, it's super creamy. I love the way this applies on my skin. I can blend it out beautifully. And then this NYX shade is kind of creamy if you work it in, so I'm kind of working the stick into my finger. I never apply these just straight from the bullet. I just don't think that works. So this NYX shade is kind of similar, not exactly the same, but it's a close second. But the thing with this NYX stick is that it's just not as creamy. It doesn't have the same kind of texture. It doesn't apply the same way. So when I apply this to my cheekbones, even today, you can see that there's a proper like stripe there, and there's no way that I can blend that out anymore. You can kind of see with the swatches that the Smashbox one just looks a little bit more glossy rather than like a proper highlighter. It's just, your skin looks glossy and hydrated. It just is the most beautiful highlighter. Make up your mind with whatever you would like, but I personally think that the Smashbox one is still my absolute favorite. I have a few eyeliners that I think are pretty similar, and the first dupe is one that you guys have definitely heard about before. I've mentioned it in Drugstore Week, I've mentioned it in previous videos, and I love both of these. First off, the high-end version is the MAC Eye Kohl in the shade Teddy. These two have the same shade name, which is so funny to me. And then the drugstore version is this Essence Kajal pencil, again in the shade Teddy. Both of these are a beautiful brown eyeliner with kind of like a bronzy shimmer running through them. They are so beautiful. These are almost exactly the same, except for the fact that the Essence one is a little bit more of a lighter brown. It's slightly lighter, and I think that the MAC one blends out a little bit better and it lasts a little bit longer than the Essence one does. The Essence one does tend to smudge a little bit, but for I think like 19 Rand, if you are on a proper budget, this Essence one is definitely going to work out well for you. Next up are two black tight line eyeliners that I love. The first one and the high-end one is the Smashbox Always On Gel Liner in the shade Fishnet. This is the most perfect jet black eyeliner for the tight line. I love it. It doesn't transfer to the lower lash line. It sticks around all day, and I think that this is actually my most favorite tight line eyeliner. And then the eyeliner from the drugstore is this Maybelline Lasting Drama 24-hour automatic gel pencil. This I've had for years, and I spoke about this in my last kind of drugstore series that I did. I think it was a month of drugstore videos. These two are very similar. I think that if you're on a budget, the Maybelline will do, but if you have money to spend, I would definitely rather invest in the Smashbox one. This doesn't transfer. Maybelline one, depending, like sometimes it does. Throughout the day I do find that there's a little bit of black kind of build up on the outer corners of my eyes, which I don't like, but if you're on a budget you can kind of get away with that, just wipe it away. But the Smashbox one sticks around all day. It's jet black. It does not budge at all. My final dupe is one that I'm so happy about. These are crazy similar, and it's a lip product. It's one that I'm wearing right now actually. The high-end product is this MAC lipstick in the shade Stone. It is kind of like a greyish corpse color. That's the best way I can explain it. It is just a corpse color, kind of like as if you had died, your lips have started to kind of dehydrate and they've lost color. That's how I like to describe this color. I think it's pretty accurate. It's a little weird. Why would you look like a corpse? But the shade is beautiful. I just love it. The dupe is one that is a lot cheaper and also very similar in color, but the formula is different. This is the NYX Lingerie liquid lipstick in the shade Honeymoon. So you can see in the swatches that Stone has a little bit more of a gray undertone rather than a brown, and Honeymoon is like a true brown, like a brown liquid lipstick. But it does have a little bit of a grey undertone. I'm wearing it today. The Stone is a matte formula, so it is generally quite matte and dry, but definitely not as drying as this NYX Lingerie liquid lipstick. So yeah, that's it. Those are the dupes that I found in my makeup collection. If you guys know of any others, then please leave them in the comments down below so that other people can find them. Share the love so that we can all know what affordable products are worth trying and what are similar to some high-end products. And I hope that you guys have enjoyed this dupes video. I know that it was highly anticipated and you guys have been commenting on my social media telling me how excited you are. So I hope that you found some affordable options that you'd like to try, and I hope that this has given you some ideas of products to buy and I've enticed you to go and do a little bit of shopping. I'm sorry about that. I'll see you tomorrow for an in-depth review, swatch and demo video of the NYX Ultimate Warm Neutrals palette. So if you are excited about that, then leave me a comment down below and let me know what you are most enjoying about Drugstore Week, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Bye bye.